We get questions about what is it like being a YouTuber full time? What does it look like when you dedicated your life to the blade?
So we thought we would give you a day or really a week in the life of Sellsword Arts and kind of give you a peek behind the veil. So stay tuned. The first thing I think we have to discuss is what people think being a YouTuber is. I think everybody thinks that it's just like a nonstop party. All you do is goof around and just make goofy videos with your friends and upload them and get tons of money.
Wake up whenever you want, do whatever you want always. It's just basically not a real job.
Yeah, it's just, we're just playing around all day.
Which,
to a certain extent, we do love what we do, right? I love swords, I love swordsmanship, I love editing, I love creating content. But a lot of people love their jobs. That doesn't make them less work. This is a lot of work. Do you work a lot?
We work a lot, and we do have a lot of freedom because of how our job functions, but that freedom is always to make content, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things people think is that, you just kind of do whatever you want every day, but we have to implement a schedule to make sure things are getting done. So Clark and I are in the studio somewhere around, what, 10 hours a day?
Around that, probably.
Yeah, between the studio and the fencing studio. So somewhere between 10 and 12 hours, 5 days a week, we are in here or at the fencing studio, either fencing, which is also content creation and training, or making content.
And that does sound like a lot, and it is a lot, but it's also because a lot of people have their job that they do for 8 hours and then they go do their hobbies. For us, it's the same thing. We work a lot, but it's doing what we love. So it's kind of like we're okay with it. It flows well.
But I do want to emphasize, because people will say, oh, you're not doing, it's really hard work.
Yeah, it is. Especially for what we do, it's so high energy, fencing and physical, and coming up with ideas and executing those ideas. In my old office job, you show up for 8 hours, you'd work like 4, right?
Yeah, and
we're on all the time.
I will say that. So one of the things, I've worked a lot of other jobs in the past. Like I didn't just wake up and become a YouTuber. I've done like a lot of stuff. And in all of the other jobs, there was this sense that you just get through the day, you get through what you've got to do, and you go home and your time is yours. You can play video games, you can have a hobby, I can go on a motorcycle ride. But with this, because you are your own boss, any time that I have that is not in front of the camera or not fencing, I feel almost guilty. Yeah. I feel like I've stopped playing video games. I've stopped doing playing music and other stuff because any time that I have where I am not working with Clark, I'm like, well, I could be editing something, or I could be training fencing, or I could be doing, you start to feel this weird pressure to always be productive because you're your own boss and you don't have off time.
The content creator brain rot.
Yeah, it really is.
Everything is content all the time. If we're not being productive, what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. I actually had to delete the analytics off my phone because it got really depressing.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to what that day in the life looks like.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through this schedule. So each of us has a slightly different schedule, but it's kind of similar. We usually end up meeting here at around 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
1 o'clock to 1:30. Before that, I wake up and I go to the gym for about an hour and a half.
So I usually get here about 30 minutes to an hour before to do uploads and emails and admin stuff. And the time before that, I eat breakfast.
Yeah.
I clean. Yeah. I cook.
So you get
I'm a trophy husband.
Yeah. Clark gets all of his stuff done in the morning. So I wake up, I eat breakfast, I slam breakfast, and I go straight to the gym, work out for an hour and a half, get here, and start making recordings. I do wake up pretty late. But that's a whole nother story that we're gonna get to in a minute. There's a reason I wake up so late, and it's not because I get to wake up at the crack of noon because I want to. So we get here, we start creating content. It's kind of like a flow state, right? So some days things flow and we make 17 videos in one day, but some days the creativity is just not there and we can only really get out maybe 5 to 8 videos.
Yeah. Only 5 to 8.
Yeah, only 5 to 8. Well, we post 3 times a day, so it kind of chews through it pretty quick.
5 to 8 doesn't sound that many, but we need at least 14 a week.
Sometimes we do an admin day where we work on sprucing up the studio, or we work on plans. And then, so we'll make videos for all of that time. We practice our choreography. We practice some fencing drills. We practice stage combat stuff.
Write down ideas, and we brainstorm a lot.
Brainstorm a lot.
Love brainstorming.
It's kind of a process of we make something, we come up with a good idea, we make that thing, we circle back. It's like organized chaos.
Yeah.
After that, usually sometime around either 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, it's time to go to fencing. One of the clubs we go to is an hour and a half away, one of them's in town. So we go to fencing, and we fence
3 to 4 hours probably.
3 to 4 hours almost every night. I fence 5 nights a week. We fence 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
Just because one of the places is really far away from Clark, so it doesn't make sense. He needs to spend time with his fiance that isn't me. So
I don't live that bachelor life.
So we fence for that whole time, and that's a mix of brushing up on our skills, filming that stuff so we have more content for you, doing drills, and just making sure that we actually know what we're doing, because you don't want to watch someone who doesn't know what they're doing, do you?
So we do that 3 to 4 hours. We usually get home on an early night, like 10:30, 11. There are nights we don't get back to like 12, 12:30 because we got caught up doing one particular exercise or chatting or
So we get home, like you said, sometime between 10:30 and like 1 on the nights where I'm driving really
That's
far.
when I have the privilege of, after that, I get to leave.
Yeah, Clark goes home.
You have to stay here and edit for the next like 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, so every night, and this is the reason I wake up so late, every night I stay up for between 2 and 3 hours editing all the videos that we just did. I'm trying to fix this. I'm trying to use Sunday, which is like a half day for us to edit everything, but we keep having a tournament or an event.
So our only true off day is on Saturday, which in theory is great, but we've had an event every weekend for like the past 4 months from Friday to Sunday, so that hasn't really been happening.
That's Clark's off day.
Your off day is more editing.
My off day is more editing. So the reason, and so I've gotten into this terrible cycle where I work more than 16 hours every day, but I will not sleep less than 8 hours. Yeah. So I'll stay up until 3 and then sleep until 11 and then stay up until like 4 and then sleep until, so it's pretty bad. Working on it, but. So that is kind of the week that we've got.
Yeah, that's the general day.
Yeah, and so every day, like I said, wake up, go to the gym, come here, create, go to fencing, come home and edit. That's the general day.
Yeah.
Not a lot of off days, not a lot of time for, honestly, like hanging out with friends or doing other stuff. So like, we do get to do what we do. We do get to do what we love doing, but it is all-consuming.
All-consuming. We are dedicated to the blade. And we joke about it a lot, but also we're not joking about it.
The other thing to talk about is like, so we've kind of talked about the scheduling. What about like the other part of it? Like how does it feel? What does it do to you as a person?
What does it do to your mental state?
A little bit, yeah.
For me, it's a lot worse for you because I have the privilege of, I am part of the Self-Sword Arts team, but I'm not Self-Sword Arts. You are.
Yeah, so
Clark, I'm like one step out.
Not to diminish, right? Because Clark you're super important to the channel, and like, you helped me so much. But I did start this channel on my own. I've poured so much of my finances, my time, and like, I've taken big chances on this channel, moving. Now, like, you see the studio, like, this is my house. This place that we are in is the place that I live. My housing is conditional upon this.
You sleep in the office.
I sleep in the office. My housing is conditional on this channel working. And that does take a toll. When I look at analytics, when I look at videos, if a video is not doing well.
If the algorithm is just for some reason not pushing our content, which happens.
Yeah, so this is another thing I wanted to circle back to because this is another important difference between being self-employed, especially for YouTube, and having a normal, stable job. When you're self-employed, it's already kind of scary because the only thing that can possibly make you succeed is yourself. If you're at a normal job, right, you can go in, you can do your job and go home, and you're getting that paycheck unless you really mess up and you get fired. If you're self-employed, there's no safety. You can't just go in and kind of half-ass your job. You got to get it done. And then for YouTube, it's even worse because it doesn't matter. If we make 20 amazing videos, we can upload those, and even if they are great quality, it doesn't really matter because the algorithm could decide that it wants to change something or it didn't hit at the right time or something went wrong within the process.
With shorts especially.
Shorts are very, very brutal. And the algorithm will constantly, they're like working on it right now. They're trying to introduce these 3-minute shorts and we've seen wild fluctuations. And that means even though we did everything right, YouTube's like, nah, you don't get money this month.
The quality is the same. We do the same things at the same times each day, but it's always, you can never really know how something is going to do.
Yeah.
We have things that we think aren't going to do great that do widely well. We have things that we think are going to do really good, and they don't do good at all.
No. And that brings us to another thing. I think that like if you go onto those silly sites like Social Blade, or you like look up YouTuber statistics, it tells you these things about how much money that people make, and they're absolutely fake.
Wildly wrong.
Wildly inaccurate. So I know that we have this expensive wall of swords behind us, and you see the studio and you go, wow, Celso Arts makes so much money. Newsflash, no. So most of the stuff that we have back here is stuff that we have accumulated over the course of like nearly 20 years, or that has been given to us for review purposes. There are a lot of awesome sword makers who want to work with us and who give us stuff that we can review, and it is invaluable to us. It's so wonderful, and we're so thankful for them, but most of these makers do not have the money to sponsor a channel like us. And because we are mostly a shorts channel, there aren't really sponsorships for shorts.
Not really.
Not good ones.
Not
They're really
really.
like all these weird like affiliate programs for scam products from like some Chinese sweatshop. We don't touch those. There's a reason we don't do sponsorships. It's because shorts gets really bad sponsorships. And long form isn't the thing that we do that much, so we don't have the views for it.
And there is a fair amount of figure that we have had to buy ourselves, but it's also kind of like tools of the trade.
Yeah.
If you're a tradesman, your tools are very expensive, but you have to have them. Right?
Yeah,
it's the same thing here.
Well, another thing to say is like I've gone into substantial debt at times to make this channel work, because you got to pay for it. Not that like I'm gonna be foreclosed on tomorrow, but it's the investment you put in. So let's talk a little bit about finances and what we actually make. YouTube Shorts does not make the same amount of money as long-form YouTube videos. If we have a short that goes to 1 million, we might get $100, $200 off of it.
If that, because I think the door shetty that's at like 14 mil gives like $200.
$200. One of the biggest videos that we've had go viral was a long time ago. We had dumb memes video.
Yeah.
And I think off of that one, I've made a couple $1,000.
Over the course of like 3 years.
Yeah, but it's at 52 million views, and I'm talking a couple. If a long form video made that, it would be a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Probably 100,000.
Probably.
But doesn't translate to shorts. And we understand that shorts is a different medium. Like I'm not here being like, oh, we should make the same money as long form videos, but it's tough. And it makes the perception that people think that we're making a lot of money when we're really not. Yeah. On average, our average month before we started working together and started doing this 3 times a week thing was somewhere around $1.5 to $2,000 a month. And that's not take home. That's business income. People don't quite understand when I say I make $2,000 a month. That's not me, that's Sellsword Arts. Sellsword Arts makes that much money, and that means that has to go into all of this stuff. It goes into the studio, it goes into traveling to events, it goes into the events themselves, which are like $200 a pop. And now that Clark is on here, that's 2 people. So that's not a lot of money. Patreon right now, we have about 400 people on Patreon. We get about $1,000 a month from Patreon, which is super helpful. But combined, $3,000 a month still isn't a whole lot.
For a business and 2 people.
Yeah, we're making a little bit more money now that we've been doing the 3 videos a day. But like I said, we don't know if this is sustainable because the algorithm goes up and down. That's why things like Patreon are super helpful, because it doesn't go up and down that much. We can count on it being there. But YouTube, like one month might throw us a check for $3,000, and the next month might throw us a check for $1,500. And that's not a way to make a living. So yeah, we're not making as much money as you think we are. We are making some money, enough that we can do this, but it's always kind of on the razor's edge. That's why things like Patreon are super helpful for us. And yes, I'm gonna do a segue right here for a commercial for our Patreon. Patreon is incredibly helpful for us because it is a consistent amount of money we can rely on. Like I said before, YouTube analytics, the algorithm, it's completely unreliable. We can put out amazing videos and they might not get picked up. It just doesn't matter. We put a lot of effort into this. It's a very niche hobby. This isn't something that the mainstream cares about. Right? This isn't something that normies, the 10-year-olds who watch Minecraft, who really drive most of the big channels, they don't care about historical fencing. So those of you who do and like seeing this stuff, donating as low as $1 a month is a huge help for us, because it means that while YouTube might not pick up a video, we might have a bad month, we still know that we have X amount of money that we can rely on so that we can pay ourselves and live and also keep the channel going. So please consider supporting us on patreon.com/sellswordarts for as low as $1 a month. We also have higher tiers. For $5, you get a number of perks like the weekly Q&A, you get your name in the credits of the videos. I think there's a couple other things on that one as well. There's a $10 perk where you can submit a fight scene seen for us to review. And there are other perks above that for other things if you really want to get into it, but that $1 tier is hugely important. That $5 tier is the best for us and gives you the most out of it. So please go check it out. It's a huge help for us. Back to the video.
Back to the video. That is one of the cool things that YouTube has enabled people like us to do is before, if you wanted to learn about how swords actually work, you couldn't. There wasn't really a place to do it because all there was Hollywood, and I guess you could find a documentary, but nobody watched those, nobody made those. And now you can go to YouTube and you can find people in that niche.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things, and this is something I think that a lot of you will understand, especially if you're watching this video, how many of you actively watch a lot of TV, especially broadcast TV anymore? A lot of people are switching over to watching things created by other people because it's within their niche, within their special interest that they like. This is something that hasn't been catered to in the past. If you were, like 20 years ago, this was unheard of, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't find stuff on historical sword fighting being uploaded every day.
We'd have to approach an executive and pitch an idea, and we have to do that to every single executive at every single station, and they might greenlight a thing, but probably not.
I mean, even look at popular shows about swords, like Forged in Fire might be the most niche, but the stuff on it is so broad, right? It's like, today we're looking at this weapon, here's a little bit of facts about it, let me hack something, which is cool, but it doesn't get into like, how do you fight with it? How do you do stuff with it?
Or the old Spike Deadliest Warrior. That was, they just made points in an Excel sheet, and then they did a choreographed It was super cool,
but it wasn't accurate.
But it's not particularly historical.
So, but I'm sure you follow other channels in other niches. We are not unique in being a niche channel that does this kind of thing, but those other channels also can only exist because of platforms like this and because of support from viewers like you on Patreon and other things. So we are in a wild west of content.
Wild West, especially with shorts, is the new wildest west.
The wildest of wests, and since we are mostly a shorts channel, we are always on the cutting edge of the wildiness. One of the other things that I think a lot of creators are hesitant to talk about because they think of it as a sign of weakness or it's indicating to the trolls that you're vulnerable is the mental health aspects of it. And I don't like trying to put up a front. I just want to be honest with you guys. It's a lot. It's a lot. You know, if you make a video that gets 100,000 views and of those views only, what, 3% are negative?
There's 1,000 comments and even 100 of them are negative. That's still 100 negative comments 3 times a day, every day. And we read the comments, and it does get frustrating at times.
Yeah, I take it a lot harder than Clark. The other thing that I think people don't understand is if you're on YouTube, you're probably a creative person. And creative people tend to be a little bit more sensitive. It's just true. It's the way it is. So you're put out there, and you know, people say get thick skin. Like, I have thick skin. I'm still doing it. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, right? Like, it doesn't wound me deeply, but it gets to me.
It's kind of like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
It might only be one little cut and it's not that big of a deal, but after there's been 1,000 of them, it gets to be a lot.
So yeah, the negativity, and then there's the algorithm itself. You post a video you thought was gonna do well, it doesn't do well. It bleeds into your worth as a person, right? Who am I? I am a YouTuber. Right? Like, I am a YouTuber. Why am I valuable? Because I do well on YouTube. That's how I see myself my worth as a person, which I try not to do. I try, but the other thing I do is fencing, right? And like, what if I suck at fencing that week, right? So like, I could have a week where I don't do very well at fencing, because you have off weeks, and I also don't do very well on YouTube, and then like everything I use to prop myself up as a person, to find my own value, is like in turmoil.
It results in a lot of low lows and high highs where you're going up and down a lot, which is the human condition, and people do that all the time. We're not special in that, but also it's amplified.
Yeah, I won't say that this is like harder than every other job. I'm not saying that at all. It's just harder than people think, right? Like this is not unique to me. There are other jobs out there that are like this. There are other things out there like this. I'm not saying I'm unique and special. I'm just saying that it's not sunshine and rainbows like everybody thinks. It's difficult.
It's the same thing that you see on like Facebook and Instagram. You see the highlights of when people are happy. They post about the good and the cool stuff. You don't see the behind the scenes when they're not so happy. And it's the same with us too. You post, you see us in skits and fencing. You see us doing the things that we love. You don't see what's off screen.
One of the other things I want to talk about is this perception, like the idea that we need to be really tough and have thick skin. Anytime anybody posts something on YouTube where it's like, I'm having a tough time, I'm having mental health, they get all these comments about like, suck it up, you know, get thicker skin, and this idea that we shouldn't be able to complain because we have this easy job. I think that's really damaging. And I think it's damaging, like, you guys like watching this stuff. Obviously, if you were watching this video or other videos like it, you find value in YouTube as a platform and the creators who are on it. So I don't understand how these same people who are enjoying this service go and treat other creators badly. You know what? I have never left a mean message on anybody's video
really easy.
ever, unless they started it. I had like somebody like make a video about me, and I didn't leave a mean message. I was like, I would appreciate if you didn't do this. but like, I have never left a mean message. It's not hard.
Even in comments, there's a perception that you're like this snarky, clean, clapback, mean guy, which isn't true. Everyone who's met you in person always knows you're like the genuine, sweetest, and nicest guy. But what you see in comments is it's fun to clap back at.
Well, it's necessary.
At times,
it's necessary because like you get these comments over and over again, and people being snarky and mean and rude, and like. I don't like it. And so I'm like, you know, I'll give you a little bit back. And I'm good at it. I'm good at snapping back in the comments against people who are mean at me.
It's cathartic.
It's cathartic. It's cathartic to just have somebody be like, gun, and be like, all right.
Okay.
Maybe that makes me a bad person. Maybe that makes me weak. But you know what? It's what I need sometimes. It is what I need sometimes to keep doing this job, because it is a difficult job emotionally.
It's the exact same thing. If you're in your group, of friends and you clap back, it's bonding and funny. But because it's over the internet, that human connection isn't there. So commenters think it's like mean.
I mean, sometimes
or like
I'm being
respond.
mean.
Sometimes
I'm being mean.
But it's always justified.
Yeah, because they're always really mean to me. Like when somebody says something about the flag that's in the studio that we go to, oh, I'll clap back hard on that one. Anyway,
yeah, when people say things about the flag.
We're gonna stop talking about how mean I am, because I think that they're gonna get the wrong idea. But no, it's tough. It weighs down on you. It seeps into your daily life. It seeps into your feelings of self-worth as a person. Both the algorithm and your performance, the comments, and then like I've had people in real life come up to you and say weird stuff too. Like it's like you're this. Well, then there's also like the parasocial aspect of it, right? Like people think they know you, but they don't, because they don't actually interact with you. I've had a bunch of interactions in person where I go to a tournament and I fence well and I'm nice to people, and people will come up to me afterwards and go, you know, I thought you were a real jerk because you said something online that I didn't agree with, but you're actually really nice and I don't hate you. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Thank you, but like...
Thank you, I guess? Like,
Or even on comments, we'll have comments being like, oh, I used to not like you until this one video. I'm like,
why did you not? All I do is talk about swords,
Nothing's
man.
changed.
I'm sorry, reverse grip doesn't work. I didn't. But yeah, so like you get weird interactions. I do not view myself as a celebrity.
No.
I have 1 million followers on social media, which are baby numbers, let's be honest. We met a real YouTuber once. We are nothing. We are peasants. We are peons. So it's weird to have this thought that some people think of me that way.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm just some guy who lives in a like relatively inexpensive apartment.
Some guy.
And is making it paycheck to paycheck just like the rest of us.
It sounds impressive, but it's not.
Yeah, like, you know.
We're nobodies.
We're nobodies.
Just some guys.
Why are you even watching this?
But all that to say, it is also rewarding. It's probably the most fun job we've ever had. Honestly, we can't really imagine going back. So we take all the trials and tribulations and all the cons, but at the end of the day, we do this because it's what we want to do, and it's rewarding. My favorite thing about this job, not only is the favorite thing is that we get to do this. The favorite thing is that I get to do this and I get to create. I've done, you know, I have a degree in acting, I have a degree in film, and I've been doing fencing my whole life. So doing all of these things together is my dream. But the best
thing to come out of this that I didn't think would happen is people being like, I got into fencing because of you.
Yeah.
Or people
that's
being like,
rewarding.
I got into fencing because of you. I'm gonna use your stuff for writing. You inspire me to do, like, that's so cool that, like, I've met people who've come to my club and joined the club that I go to and be like, hey. I'm here because I watch your videos. And I'm like, I'm awkward and I don't know how to talk to you, but I'm so happy that happened. Like, it just feels cool to know that there are people who now are fencing because of our stupid videos online.
We're doing our part.
I'm doing my part. And so am I! Because I'm short.
Because you're short.
I'm a child.
Manlet.
Okay. So to conclude all of this, YouTube is a super fun place to work and it can be rewarding, but it's very volatile. It's not something that we can really rely on for a consistent paycheck. And it means that there's a lot of mental health and pressure stuff that go with it. We work a lot. You know, we're
all the time.
What did we calculate it out to being like 55 hours a week in the studio plus an additional 20, 30 hours a week of editing and other stuff.
Yeah.
We travel a lot for events, for stuff like this.
Tournaments, sprint fairs, conventions.
It keeps us busy. We like doing it. I don't think I could do anything else at this point.
No.
So if you like us and if you like what we do, consider supporting us so we can keep doing it and keep bringing you awesome videos. And thanks for listening to two sword geeks talk about swords.
This is a little off-brand, but we hope that you enjoy it. Is our ramblings about the YouTube life, the YouTube sword life.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to make videos like this where you can like just talk to you guys honestly and be a little bit vulnerable and be like, hey, this is hard, but we love doing it. And
it's good stuff.
I know there's gonna be people in the comments who are like, oh, YouTube's not a real job, whatever. But most of you are pretty cool. Most of you guys are awesome, and we really, really appreciate you. We really appreciate you guys viewing our stuff and supporting us and being a positive voice in the comments. We couldn't do this without you. We couldn't do this without people who are interested in it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
A big thanks to all of our supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships.
If you want to support us, this is the best way to do it.
This means we don't have to rely on the fickle whims of the algorithm and AdSense, and we can keep bringing you awesome content without fearing starving. So if you want to support us, consider joining for $1 a month.